Hi, students. Today we're going to spend some time talking about publishing your research. So we've been talking with you regarding the biomechanics, clinical research, a lot of bioengineering um, and knowledge regarding orthopedics over this course. And I'm sure some of you may be interested in publishing some of your either clinical research results or cadaver engineering research results either yourself or with your surgeon. So these are just some conversation regarding some tips regarding publication. So once you have data, especially a lot of you probably will have clinical study data. Now what? The first thing you want to ask yourself and maybe discuss with your surgeon is what kind of topic of publication you are looking for. So imagine when you have the final publication, the paper will have a title. What is that? Usually that's regarding a research question. The nature of your study also determine the topics. If you are having the data set coming from a founded research project, and you probably will have a pretty good idea, predetermined topics. It's in the study goal or research question in your protocol. But if you are just doing regular follow-up with your patients, and you have a set of patient outcome data, and you might want to check what is the hot topic or hot topics in the current field. For example, right now, for some of the conferences, actually a lot of conferences, we're talking about soft tissue balancing for total knee arthroplasty. So balance of the knee, that's directly correlated to the functional outcome. That may be something you can dig into your data and publish on. And also, if you're looking into the conference, they always publish their podiums, abstracts, titles, and then just a browse of these titles, you can get an idea of what are the topics the conferences are looking for. The same thing with journal as well. Recent journals, look at their table of contents, and you will have a pretty good idea of what are the hot topics, and very likely you can have high chance to publish your results if you can orientate your study towards these topics. So if you do not actually so for example, you have an overall collection of clinical outcomes from all of your patients, and towards the certain topics, you may be able to cut a subset from your topics and then address that research topic. For example, coming back to the functional outcome, there may be interesting investigation regarding what type of patients you have that would lead to a better functional outcome, or high BMI patients, high weight, high deformity. So you can pretty much do a lot of subsets regarding a sub question under that hot topic. And to talk about the publishable research, there are different strength levels. And of course, always randomized level 1 research. That means you have the data set or patient cohort, that's your treatment set, and you have a control set that you want to compare it to. And you randomized both sets such that the patients are blinded to the treatment, and you can have a different level of blindness, and especially even up to the surgeon can be blinded in some of the drug study. But anyway, these are the highest level research, and you can probably, after gathering a statistical powerful data set number-wise, you can get a very, very strong publication. You can probably have confidence submitting to high-end conferences and high impact factor journals. And after that will be multi-center controlled study. So you still have a control set and a treatment set, that you got all the data consecutively from multiple surgeons and multiple locations and countries and hospital sites. That's also very strong, although it's not totally blinded, it's not randomized. The next will be multi-center non-controlled research, so that you are just reporting a single consecutive set of patients from multiple sites, multiple surgeons. followed by single center controlled research. So you have one surgeon and you can have a treatment set and a controlled set. The control set could be, for example, you're investigating a new implant system. Your treatment set will be the current cohort. That's the patients who received new implants versus what the surgeon used before, the old cohort, the patients with the old implants the surgeon was using. So that could be a single center controlled research. And then single center non-controlled research, that means you're only report out the data, the outcome of the new implants. So there is no comparison to the previous implant system. And the last, it's the more of a non-clinical research type, bench tests or cadaver tests. So sometimes if you have a surgeon willing to do cadaver lab, that could be, once you frame out your research topic and protocol, you could also frame a research study around it and be able to publish the results. So from the strength level, you're going to decide, evaluate the type of conferences you have high confidence to submit to, and journals, what kind of journal you are aiming for. And usually for publication type, we talk about journal, we talk about conferences, and you can also do white papers if you are sponsored from industry or even your hospital. And if you have a great data regarding a new implant system, you may be able to even reach out to your device company and talk to them regarding white papers. So white papers are device company sponsored internal publications, but used for marketing. So they are approved by regulatory body. So make sure you are not using the device off-label. So everything's on-label, good results, and the company may be able to sponsor you to draft a white paper and use it for sales and marketing as a commercial collateral. So that could be something even to start your publication process with, because you can use that as a practice of writing scientific papers and later transfer that into other external publications such as conference and journal. So what do I need to know regarding each type? From journal standpoint, there are English journal and non-English journal, depending on what are you comfortable with. If you are in the Middle East area, you might want to check if you have anything in your area, a good named journal. And there are also open source or non-open source ones. There are a lot of open source journal right now, but just make sure if you submit to any of them, make sure they are actually having a pretty good name or stand. If you have a really good study, you don't want to waste them with a very no-named, unfamous journal, then it's probably not going to be read by people. So that's not good exposure from your good research. And some of them actually charge for publication fee, although very, very rarely. Some of the good ones actually charge. So make sure you know that before you select a journal. You can evaluate, compare between journals. A lot of good ones are not charging as well. And of course, impact factors, that's a factor number to benchmark the ranking of the journals, the impact they make, that directly determine how prestige are they, and also are you going to have a lot of readers and exposures in the research field. So you can search online for impact factors for your target journal and check on them. That also determine their reputation. And as I mentioned, English or non-English, but also the most likely would be restrained by either their international journal or regional journal. And those are all impacting the difficulty of getting accepted. So depending on, as I mentioned, the type of research you have, the strength of research you have, you may be able to aim high or aim low, but always trying to aim appropriately. A little bit challenging side, maybe a little bit appropriate to difficult. Between that, it'll be a sweet spot, a nice spot to submit to. And every journal website would define the manuscript requirement, formatting, word count, etc., etc. So you want to check that before you start the writing. And if you are not English speaker, and a lot of journals, international ones, have English editing service with a fee. And once you go past the initial manuscript submission, you're gonna get either reject or accepted. That's really rare. Reject, a lot of them will be rejected, and a lot of them will have revision, either major revision or minor revision. So minor revision usually just contains pretty small changes, editing you want to do. For the major revision, make sure you carefully read reviewers' comment and address them one by one in the response letter as much as possible. So if they are asking for new analysis, do that new analysis. Don't usually, if it's not impossible, then don't push back. Then now probably not going to do very well with acceptance. So that's for journal. Conference wise, there are a lot of conferences, regional conference or international conference, and they have also impact factor as well. Not an official impact factor, but they are known in the field. Some of the conferences are listed here. That's at least in America, and we always shoot for these kind of conferences for orthopedics. And also, if you are in a specialized area like spine, hip, ankle, extremity, and they have their own conferences as well. But these are the overarching conferences that's pretty much covering all the orthopedics joints. And every conference has every year annual congress. That means they are asking for abstracts, and they always put the call for abstract announcement on their website. So make sure you check their website. I will have the links of the website later in this presentation. That you first want to check their deadline. What is the deadline for submission of the abstract, and also, of course, the conference time for your availability for attendance. And coming with the call for abstract, you always have a format requirement, word limit, image limit, etc., etc. Some of them will have a one-page limit, but not really constraining your word count and images. Some of them will have only allowing 2 images or 3 images. So make sure you follow that format requirement. And really make sure you are, after you check the conference's time, somebody on your author list, at least one, will go and present. Some of the conferences will have punishment if you don't show up or don't register once your abstract is accepted. So that could be a 1 year to 2 year ban that you cannot submit or will not be accepted anymore in that period. So make sure you can attend the conference. So talking about more on the conference, because I think more of you will be aiming at this category for external publications at the beginning. That will be a really good practice to get to the clinical and engineering field, research field, without spending too much time and waiting for too long. Conference is always easy to submit. It's a shorter requirement for paper, much shorter, and also quick turnaround time. You are going to be accepted in a few months and be able to present within that year or about a few months after your acceptance. So it's very quick turnout for getting your research results out. And at the conference, you have the networking opportunities with fellow researchers, and even identify opportunities for collaboration in the future research. So that will really help you to expand your research connectivity to the research field. And sometimes if you choose to be a member of the conference or the society who's organizing the conference, you're going to have also more accessibility to resources like previous abstracts collection, and some of them even offer a journal, their own journal access for free. And you have a networking society of the fellow membership, and you even will have, after a few years, hopefully, opportunities to volunteer in the society, that you will make even more impact in a research field. So here is just a screenshot of the example abstract submission for ISTA 2020. So you can see they're listing out a submission deadline. They're listing out all the requirements for the abstract format. So just an example for you to see. So if you check every website, you will have that individually for each conference. So what about that conference abstract you're going to submit? So I'm going to just share a little bit anatomy of a conference abstract. And here is a ORS example, one of my abstracts back in 2018. The requirement was 1 page, and typically it comes with a title, and ORS specifically asking for disclosure information from the authors, so it has a disclosure section as well. And then introduction, methods, results, discussion. And at the end of it, ORS asks also for significance. That means a 1 or 2 sentence, very short summary about why your research is significant. And of course, you can either opt to use a reference or not reference. It's not hardwired required unless it is specifically said in the conference requirement, like CAOS, computer assisted orthopedic surgery. That conference asked for a certain number of references in your introduction to make sure your research has clinical relevancy to the existing knowledge. So talking about title, it's usually a very important part of the abstract, although a lot of people may not realize. It catches people's eyes at the beginning when they look at that, even especially for reviewers. They look at the title, it immediately can define how much of the impact or significance your study can be. So a title represents the core of the study. You can use that to describe what's the nature of your study, just descriptive, very, very brief, or eye-catching. You can really just list the research question out if that's a very hot topic in the field right now. So disclosures for us, you want to list that on the abstract, but almost every conference would ask you for author disclosure. May not be listed on your paper, but you will have to fill in disclosure during your submission on the website. In the introduction section, the key is to first review or provide a statement of the current status of the study topic. What do we know now? And also, is there any questions or problems or gap regarding the current knowledge or regarding the current clinical practice? And that lays out the tone or why you're doing the study. That's very important that you understand why and present that why to people, so they are also interested to learn what do you find in the study. So clinical relevancy, current knowledge gap, that's important. You either use the research to answer a brand new question nobody ever asked or nobody ever looked into, or there are some studies in there, but there are still a lack of evidence in some of there are gaps in the existing data or existing knowledge that you want to answer. Then the materials and methods section, that's really just a scientific statement or summary of the research activities you performed for the study and data analysis. And don't stay on the fact and do not mix in results and discussion, just purely what you have done, that people can really just take that and as their guidance, they can repeat your study. That's basically your tip to really just summarize the study for them, activities for them. In the results section, summarize all the results you found, interesting results you found, and any observations and your data analysis results. Stay on scientifically describing the data and do not interpolate the data or discuss data, because this section is simply laying out the scientific findings itself, and leave the interpolation and discussion to discussion section. And you can, in this section, and really analyze your findings and draw a conclusion. And that hopefully will link to the research question you want to answer. Either it's false, hypothesis, or true, or either you want to find a certain answer to a certain question, or generating the missing data to fill the gap. And don't forget to lay out the value of your study. So after you draw a conclusion, you can state the impact of these findings to the existing field. And some of the abstracts, if you have room, or if you have a very clear limitation of your study, you want to lay out that in the discussion, such that people will not see you trying to draw a biased conclusion. So you lay out, we acknowledge we have limitations in the study, such as. And if you even have more room, you can briefly state what could be the future steps or next steps for this investigation, for this research study, to improve the research. And regarding some of the conferences, as I mentioned, ORS asked for a high-level summary. I think AOS also asked for a short, very short paragraph for summarizing your study and significance. You can list your references here as well. And for the tables and figures, the images, and you want to make sure they are clear, professionally presented. So they should be pretty to look at, and also precise in terms of the data, the results they want to present. So pick the most important data or important, interesting results you want to show, and use the legend to assist understanding of the image content. But at the end of the day, if you have a colleague or somebody who's not involved in the study but has the knowledge sufficient enough to understand the topic, have them look at your tables and images. Just make sure they can get some idea, or at least your major idea you want to tell them. That third people's eyes, very helpful for you to be able to make sure you present using your graphs, present a clear message and results to people. So as I mentioned, these are some of the international conferences I'm sharing with you. Links to the websites, you can check on them to see if you want to try to submit some of them. So from the white paper standpoint, and I would encourage you, if you have a good set of data and you think you might be able to help the device company, the sponsor, to be able to publish from the white paper standpoint as a start point, you may want to initiate a discussion with your device company and see if they're interested in assisting you for the white paper generation. And with that, we wrap up this lecture, and I wish everybody will be successful in your seeking for publishing your research results. Thank you.